are virtuous mentors nowadays. In fact, all phenomena are our virtuous mentors. But we just don't know that. Which phenomenon isn't? The issue is you need to be virtuous in order to have this knowledge. Without being virtuous, you have no way of knowing it. We are ordinary people. In our roles as ordinary people, Disegue, Guide to a Happy Life, has taught us to get close to virtuous people. These are virtuous mentors in the context of the Dharma. They are compassionate, virtuous, wise, and knowledgeable people. Get close to them and learn from them. In the current circumstances, what do we do if we can't find any virtuous mentors? The works left to us by virtuous mentors from the past could still be found. We just need to look for them. For a beginner, we need to follow just one virtuous mentor, as we'll be confused if we learn from too many teachers. In the past, when teacher Li Bing Nan taught me, he gave me 3 conditions for studying under his tutelage. I went all the way to Taichung to meet him, which meant I was very enthusiastic to be his student. He asked me to observe 3 conditions. By that time, I'd already studied Buddhism for several years. I learned Buddhism at the age of 26. And when I got close to teacher Li, it was 5 years later. I was 30 years old then. His first condition was that he wouldn't acknowledge whatever I'd learned before, and it didn't matter whom I'd learned it from. This included teacher Tome H. Fang and Venerable Master Jangyia Hotog too. He said, "You're welcome to learn here, but you must start from scratch. Your past learnings don't count." This was the first condition. The second condition was, when you study here, you're only allowed to listen to my teachings. You can only listen to my Dharma talks and teachings. You aren't allowed to listen to the talks given by other eminent monks or virtuous lay Buddhists. This was the second condition. The third condition was, from this day onwards, you're not allowed to read any texts, sutras, classics, or general books, without my prior approval. After listening to what teacher Li had said, I had the immediate impression that this teacher was too domineering and haughty. Why did he set such strict conditions? He didn't allow you to listen to others, and this was akin to plugging your ears. He didn't permit you to read others' works, and this was like blindfolding you. You could only listen to him alone. When I heard this, I remained silent for about 5 minutes. After some thought, I accepted his conditions. Then he accepted me as his student. Later, teacher Li told me that these conditions weren't indefinite. They'd only need to be adhered to for 5 years. I had to strictly abide by these 3 conditions for 5 years, not indefinitely. Having accepted the conditions and studied like this for 3 months, I could feel the impact. My mind became clearer. Why was it so? This was because I didn't read random things. My mind was calm when I learned from only one teacher. After about 10 years of learning, I realised that this method of passing down knowledge from a teacher to a student has been practiced in China since the ancient times. When a teacher chooses you as a student and wants to guide you, if you want to learn from many others, the teacher is unable to teach you because you're confused. I wasn't permitted to read a wide range of materials because of my older age. I was already 30 years old when I was under the tutelage of Teacher Lee. Previously, I learned from Mr. Feng at the age of 26. Thus, Teacher Lee had to set strict conditions. After half a year, there was some amazing impact. My mind became pure, and it was as if I had a bit of wisdom. I understood whatever I heard or saw. After 5 years, I said to Teacher Lee, "Teacher, I'd like to continue with this learning method for another 5 years." Teacher Lee smiled. I observed his method for 10 years. What was it? It was actually the method of delving into one subject and persevering with it. If you don't have confidence in the teacher, you would have left him. I reflected upon this later and realised that Teacher Feng also had this intention, but was just short of saying it. Initially, I thought of going to the university to sit in on Mr. Feng's lectures. He objected and said that teachers didn't behave like teachers and students didn't behave like students at university in those days. That was 60 years ago. Mr. Feng said that I'd be disappointed if I were to attend lectures at the university. Instead, he was willing to give me 2-hour lessons every Sunday at his house. Such lessons were one-to-one classes on a round table in a small living room at his house. This was how I learned. I'm not related to Mr. Feng in any way, and we didn't know each other before this. Out of admiration, I wrote a letter to introduce myself to him. After a face-to-face discussion, his decision was to let me attend his home tuition for 2 hours per week. Later, I got to know Venerable Master Jangya Hotok Tu, who was very caring and compassionate. He too offered a weekly 2-hour lesson for me. If I didn't attend a lesson because of my laziness, he'd ask his assistant to call me and ask why I didn't go and whether it was due to sickness. Listening to his call, I felt sorry for not going. My teacher showed great concern and care. Teacher Lee directly told me the teaching method, whereas Mr. Feng and Venerable Master Jangya Hotok Tu didn't. This is getting close to and learning from Virtuous Mentors. Teacher Lee humbly told me in his lectures that he could only teach me for 5 years. What would happen after the 5 years? He said he'd recommend another teacher to me. Who was that teacher? It was his teacher, Venerable Master Yin Guang, who was no longer around, but he left us some books. Teacher Lee gave me 4 books under the series entitled Letters from Venerable Master Yin Guang. It was the only series available in Taiwan at that time. The books were divided into volumes 1 and 2 in the main edition and volumes 1 and 2 in the sequel. The total number is 4 books. He gave me this set of books and said, if you read them and abide by the teachings, you'd be considered Venerable Master Yin Guang's disciple. He further explained that Venerable Master Yin Guang was a remarkable virtuous mentor of the contemporary era. Teacher Li learned the Pure Land method under Venerable Master Yin Guang. Hence, our lineage could be traced back to Venerable Master Yin Guang. Now, the complete works of Venerable Master Yin Guang has been published. I think the hardcover version consists of 7 volumes. Thus, it's important to get close to and learn from Virtuous Mentors.